So you want to have a little snack?
Yeah.
It's all for you. All the deliciousness is right here
I
for
haven't
you.
eaten in a week.
Eat. Hey, I am so delighted to welcome two of my very favorite fellas to the Art Zone studio, Pat and Chris Cashman. That's you two right here.
Oh, isn't that nice of you to say that?
Yes.
Hey, what's with the grub? We
like to have grub for the cool people.
Just some
so feel free to just dig in. I'm not sure what it is or if it's edible.
actually a grub.
It is. It's like a little grub. But that's protein.
I know you're supposed to have sips of stuff on talk shows, so I'll do this
right.
in between everything you say.
Just kind of like clear the palate. Nice. I like
Yeah.
that. Father, son. Who's the father? Who's the son? Remind me of that. That is.
The answer.
The answer is
when we come back from this break.
Can you use subtitles on this show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So if
I'm the father.
You're the father.
Yeah.
This is the son.
And that has been
Grandpa.
confirmed.
Yes.
You'll get to see those results live on Maury Povich
Outstanding,
this
you guys.
December.
Oh, great! I'm
So,
glad that's
it's a lot of
finally
fun.
kind of come into light.
Put it to rest. This is
You
the
and
guy.
I, of course, have a long history
on a
with
I'll be through
Almost
chewing
Live.
this in about 20 minutes.
Okay. Let me open your mouth. Let me see.
Let's put
Is it
the
in your
food
teeth?
over here.
Your teeth. Yeah, that's fine.
There?
Yeah, there. Most of the teeth are there. So we have a long history
Where's
with
my
Almost
floss?
Live, and you
Yeah.
also started out your career on Almost Live. Your dad put you in some Almost Live bits. How did you know that Chris was going to actually be able to do it?
Well, of course he could do it. I could tell, but we would practice it at home.
Through fear and intimidation.
Yeah.
You really would? You would
Behind the
practice?
scenes. Don't you ruin this for me.
I actually go back farther than King TV. I was at a station called KTVB in Boise.
I saw a lot of that stuff you did, which was
And I did
fantastic.
an overnight horror movie called Peculiar Playhouse, which I was very happy with the title. And I'm this professor character with a mustache and shock of white hair. And so he comes out in one bit as my nephew, Freddie Farndark. And so we bring him out in diapers.
So he's tiny.
He's tiny. He can barely walk. And I just sit him there, but he's got a little mustache on. And
that was the
his-
beginning.
That was the beginning, and probably should have been the end.
Maybe
Yeah,
should have ended
right.
at that point. Now, do you guys? I mean, you won. You guys were up for an Emmy Award at the same time for the
Oh,
same
I'm
bit.
always up for one. Yeah, I've never won one, but I'm always
you're
up for
dead.
it.
Some of the most nominated talent in the market.
You didn't, but you beat him out for an Emmy Award one year on the same bit. Is that
That's
right?
true. I remember it so well. I felt horrible.
Did you?
Oh, my
Well, the
God,
quick
I was
story is one of the
awful.
first bits that I remember getting to do on Almost Live because it meant, he asked me, hey, do you want to be on TV?
Yes.
I don't know, I was 10, 11, 12.
Right.
I had done a few things.
Yeah.
But he said, hey, do you want to be in this video shoot? Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
I wasn't bitten by this whole thing yet.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you'd have to miss school for a day. I'm in. So that's all
Done.
I knew was I was in. We did this skit. It was called Sluggy. It was one of a couple of Sluggies, but the one I was in aired. A lot of my friends saw it, teachers, and all of a sudden it was the first time I heard people saying, hey, man, you were on TV. And I was
Yeah.
kind of going, oh, wow, people are, oh, okay.
Hey, I might like this kind of thing.
It's based
So,
on
yeah.
like Lassie, a kid, but this kid, he's too poor to have a regular dog or a cat.
Right.
So then he discovers a slug out in his yard and asks his parents
Becomes,
if he
of
can
course,
keep
his
it.
pet.
Yeah.
It's a great bit. Yeah, I think there was like 4 or 5 installments of that.
The perfect story. If only time had been a little longer. If only fate had been a little kinder. And Sluggy a little faster.
Sluggy! Sluggy, a truck! Let's go! Sluggy, hurry! Go fast! Move it, Sluggy! Come on! Sluggy!
Son, there's nothing we can do. Go in the house. Get my spatula.
Flash forward,
Yeah.
the Northwest Regional Emmys held every year.
Yep.
Some things were submitted. I ended up getting nominated as like a best male talent was the category or something at the time. And all I knew was I was in junior high and I got to leave school
Another
and get to go to
time
this
leaving
award
school.
show. And I remember sitting in the Red Line in Seattle and going, whoa, this is cool, an award show, man, how fun is this? And the category comes up and feeling these nerves of like, I wasn't sure why, but I thought, wow, I need to win this. I guess I really need to win this. And the winner is Pat Cashman. And what? and I remember, maybe I've rewired this, but I remember very clearly hearing him going, oh man, like knowing
Meryl
this
Streep
is not going to go
again.
well.
It's like, oh brother, I can't believe I'm getting it again.
So I did what every 12-year-old boy would do at that point. I started crying.
Of course.
I couldn't. I remember trying to hide my face, and I'm crying. I'm emotional. He wins it, but it was really fun. And in fact,
And the
this
next
last
year you won it, and I started crying. Remember?
and he's
Well, you're a
not
baby.
stopped.
That getting out of school thing was so important to him that he just dropped out in the 7th grade altogether.
He's done actually quite well.
He does,
I think he's done quite well. At what point did you know? I mean, both your folks are funny. Pat's funny. Your mom, Patty, is funny. But what point did you know?
Your Melon
Your mom,
thought it was
your Melanie
Melons,
mother.
Melon is
But
funny.
what point did you know that your dad was different than most other kids' dads?
Well, I think I'm going to do a dramatic
this-
sip take.
Take a sip. Yeah. Think, ponder, consider.
It's a good question. No, I think it really was right around junior high-ish that Almost Live was becoming a thing, and people were talking about it, and teachers and people were kind of pointing it out. And then it just was where we would start to go to restaurants and things, and people would come up and go, hey, just
Get
wanted to
out
say
of
hi, or hey, you got something hanging out of your nose. But sometimes they would just smile at him, or people would just come by, and it, slowly I started to realize, oh wow, people look at him in a very cool way, like that he makes people smile is their first reaction when they see him, and I just thought that is the neatest thing. I don't know that it ever dawned on me of like, oh, we're a funny family or anything. It just was sort of our reality, you know.
Right.
But I think it was right around 7th grade where I
Kinda hit.
realized that oh, people seem to really enjoy the
This
humor
guy.
thing in him, and I just thought that was the coolest thing.
And then for Chris, then he goes off to college, and all through that time he's talking, man, I can't. My dream is to be on Almost Live. It's so great. He's like a guy running a mile race, and he's just coming to the finish line.
Well, I went to
and they say,
Washington State.
We canceled the track meet. Sorry.
Well, it was
Show's
perfect
gone.
though, because I went to Washington State. They have a great broadcast program. An upperclassman approached me in my first year because I had done some small segment on a local, student show, but it was trying to be funny, and I made him laugh at least, and he said, hey, we should do a comedy show together. I'm leaving next year. I want to do a comedy show. Would you want to do a comedy? I said, oh, that's absolutely what I'd want to do.
And it did really well.
We wrote one. We started a show called Nighttime, and I got to do that all 4 years I was there, and
What time
we
of
just
day
would
was that on?
spoof
Midday.
about noon. Yeah, it was a daytime talk show. Chris. And no, it was called Nighttime, and we just got to spoof. I mean, it was basically our version of Almost Live. We got to
Live,
spoof
right.
Pullman, the Cougs, and I know it's very hard to make fun of the Cougs.
Oh, yeah.
But
That's a high level.
we got to do Cops and Pullman, and little silly things, but kind of accidentally we built this cult following, and to the point where by the time I was a senior, when I wasn't when I wasn't hitting the books, in which when I was in the library, the rare exception when I was at the bar, people would actually say, "Hey, you're aren't you that thing you did on Ryan Leaf, man? That was cool. Can I buy you a beer?" And the lights kind of went on to where I went, "Oh wow, this is cool." So
This is basically what my dad
some of the
experiences.
silliness that we've done, people responded to, and so I really started to believe. Maybe I could get out of here and go right for
I'm
Almost
just
Live.
going to eat while you guys talk.
I know. Well, I want to ask you guys about your shared. Do you have a shared sense of humor? Is it a similar sense of humor? And where does your humor differ from each other? Yeah, don't.
All right.
But you can do it after.
That's
you
where
answer.
it differs. See,
Right
I
there.
would have
You're
eaten
asking
You would have
me?
eaten that.
I
I'm
would have
asking
eaten
you.
that.
Okay.
I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I mean, is the similar? Do you guys share a pretty similar sense of humor?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously, coming from a different generation than me. Obviously, I'm more of the Milton Berle, Bob Hope, and
Vaudevillian.
yeah,
perhaps?
vaudevillian. I like seltzer water down the pants and stuff like that.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, that's true.
Just yeah.
But I guess I kind of like slapstick sort of things, and but I just like all kinds of things. But
That's why when we showed up, I was on my phone doing Twitter, and he was putting the cream in his pies.
Right.
Out
Exactly.
there to get them
That
ready.
kind of shows.
By
that.
the way, this is a modern show, isn't it? That's a nice camera.
Isn't that a beautiful camera?
I just bought one like that the other day.
Good for you.
No, but the real answer is I would say yeah. I mean, I get to see it now in my own daughters. How my oldest daughter is a lot like me, and she'll say things,
5
she'll do
and
things,
3
and I'll
are
go,
your
wow,
kids,
this is
right.
amazing, yeah. And I remember seeing some of those things with him is that he would do things, and almost reverse. I'd go, oh wow, that looks like a face I make, and then I realize, oh, you know, you're clearly you were hardwired by this person. So like my favorite pastime is just getting to hang out with him, and we love to find the worst thing on TV.
Is that what you do?
And watch it, and then often turn down the volume, and then revoice what this show should be about.
The worst thing on TV, by the way, is never the Seattle Channel. I want to tell you that.
Well, not this show.
No, not any of the shows.
Not any of the
don't
Seattle
revoice
shows.
this.
Well, one thing I'd say about with your humor, Pat, is I don't know if I've ever heard you swear on TV. Now, maybe that you're going to change all that right now. I don't know. But you have a certain...
You mean testify? Like on a Bible swear? Is that
No, yeah, well, yeah, sure. I've never seen you do that.
He's never been asked to.
But yeah, I mean, you have a certain... you have a great physicality, but you also have you have a high... There's a sweetness to you,
Well, I think... Well, that's very nice of you to say, but I think that's also a generational thing. If I had said words such as words that are said, when words are said that aren't really words that you would find in, say, Merriam-Webster, for example, I'd be eating a couple bars of soap when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of, we grew up in a Catholic family and went to Catholic grade school. In fact, the grade school I went to, up to the 8th grade, was called St. Francis of Assisi Elementary School. And it later became a brew pub. So my brothers and I will go into this brew pub, and my brother Sean will say, wow, this is what used to be the 7th grade. And look at this, I'm drinking a beer. And I didn't have to sneak it in this time. You know.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, he was a real hellraiser, but so that's kind of how I was brought up.
So you brought it, but you maintained that. I mean, a lot of people were brought up that way, but they kind of went blue at some point. I mean, let's say John Keister would use words. Yeah,
but I don't mind it. Yeah, I think a lot of I have this thing I used to do on the radio, and we do it on a podcast now called the Dirty Joke Challenge.
Yes.
And the idea is that people can send me the filthiest joke you can think of, and I will tell it on the radio for public consumption. Little kids can be in the room, and I can still tell the joke, substituting words or phrases, and it still has to be funny, or it isn't successful.
Wow, so that's on a podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, we'll put a link on our homepage.
That name I borrowed again from what I mentioned earlier. This is called Peculiar Podcast.
Oh, Peculiar Podcast. Excellent.
Yes,
okay. So you guys, I know in the last 6 months I have been asked many times, so is Almost Live coming back? And my answer is always...
Is it?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to ask you. No. I always say no. But there is something called the 206. It's driven by you guys. So tell us a little bit about it. Is it a resurgence of Almost Live? Is it a whole different deal? Is it for TV? Is it for web?
It's for billboards.
Billboards.
And skywriting.
That's the future, isn't it?
Well, it's awkward transition because it's going to be very dirty. We're going to be working very, very blue. Filthiest comedy we can come up with.
I realized that was the missing component. Finally, I got it.
Right, at this late age. But luckily you found out.
But what I tell people is they say, is this going to be a reboot of Almost Live? And I say, it can't really be that because back when Almost Live was on the air in the 90s, traffic was horrible.
Yes.
People were dismayed with city government. There were Starbucks everywhere. The Mariners sucked. It was a different time.
It was a different time.
Yeah. So it won't be that.
Kent was goofy.
Yeah. Back then. Who would know that now?
Yeah.
But so it obviously isn't going to be like that, and we're still working out how do you do this? Do you do this show at a place like a studio?
Yes.
We don't think so. And we're just kind of working it out. But we've shot several bits already.
Which are funny. I've watched them. They're great.
And we did a appearance at the Triple Door.
Right, which
we
sold
did a
out
live
in
event.
a heartbeat, right?
We just thought, the quick answer is he, myself, John Keister, we're all working on another project, and the group involved said, God, what we'd really like to do is comedy again, local comedy. That would be fun.
The Masked Magician is back, out of hiding, daring to expose magic's most time-honored secrets.
Tonight, the Masked Magician is revealing one of the oldest and most mind-blowing illusions of all time. Not to worry, the adorable volunteer is unharmed. But wait a minute, where's her nose? The masked man appears to have stolen her nose. But how is that possible?
So we all kind of agreed, let's just do a couple of things. and let social media work for us. Let social media dictate if people want this or not.
That's
and
that younger.
These young hipsters.
That's the young hipster mind
And
right there.
so-
Yeah. Pay attention.
so-
pay attention.
What is this?
Well, you were doing the seltzer bit in the corner as I proposed this to the
That
group.
was my social media.
Right.
Yeah.
So we did. We put some stuff out there, and I ran a clip and an award show and stuff. And sure enough, all of a sudden, the Seattle PI found out about it.
Yeah.
They blogged about it. We started getting phone calls from people, and so the audience sort of
Is
said,
there.
Go.
Go, do it.
All we know for sure is it's local comedy.
Yep.
We are working out a deal, television for the new year, for January. We can't say much more than that. We also decided, hey, the audience seems to be enjoying what we're doing so far.
Good.
Let's do a live event. You think? Could we do it? We got the Triple Door on board with us, and it sold out very quickly. Again, all we did was Facebook hit,
Right.
sold out. People came. We had a blast. It was so much fun, and
So
here we are.
So the 206.
And again, that's the hardest part, is coming up with a name, because Almost Live
That's
was like the
actually pretty good,
coolest,
I have to
perfect
say.
name. We weren't sure.
Yeah.
We had this big long list. Ultimately, it comes down to what's taken, because if you do searches, everything's taken. We wanted Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, taken.
Oh, taken. No,
So
dang,
you get
shoot.
far enough down the
Ellen,
list.
Gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Oprah.
Gardening with Cisco.
Oprah
Gone.
available, I think.
Oh, is it available?
Yeah.
I wanted to call it Between the Cracks, but we.
I kind of like that too.
Yeah, I did. So we kind of
Advertiser
we're
didn't.
kind of keeping that name there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but we thought ultimately it ought to say something that it's a local show, and
Yes,
that's what
indeed,
the 206
indeed.
was about.
Yeah. Do you think there's a place for? Well, you must obviously. Do you think there's a place for local comedy
Gutter.
on local
The gutter.
and in local TV? I mean, like you said, it has changed in terms of just kind of like the business side.
Yeah, well, you must get asked all the time. Do you think Almost Live will ever come back,
Oh,
Nancy?
yeah.
We miss it so much.
And I say no.
Yeah,
No.
it not that way.
Not
but
that way.
stations-
We're all
Right.
well. I'm too old. And some people have lost their minds. I think that we're part of that cast originally.
35 is not too old, Nancy.
Yeah, not at all.
You've still got some. Thanks.
Well, are your kids gonna? I'll give you.
No, you're not. You're
Are you-
not Dora or Blue's Clues, so they're not watching.
Okay, are your
That's what
kids
you're
going to
worried
be
about.
on the 206?
My daughter actually was, and my oldest Maddie was. I stuck her in a thing that's actually out there on the web right now. We did a political spoof with Keister in it, and Vote for John, and she
Oh, I
made
saw that.
she made a
Very
little
funny.
cameo. So that's my oldest in that video.
Yeah.
And
He's pandering to her, offering her Skittles. or
his
something.
ability to connect with the next generation is
Yes.
impressive, and he gives her some Skittles, and she smiles. So, but I guess the real answer to your story is there a place for it on TV? That's also been the surprising thing
Yeah.
was
Yes.
because we just put out some bait and said, let's see if people care about this. They seemed to care. They reacted. They sold out a live event.
Yep.
And to be quite honest, the interest from TV stations it was reverse. We weren't knocking on doors. It was sort of reverse. People were interested and they wanted to meet with
must
us and they wanted to
feel
talk to
pretty
us.
good.
Well, it could be a catastrophe. you
Well,
know.
anything could be a
I mean, when-
catastrophe. Look at this.
People think that Almost Live is this. They talk about it so reverentially.
Right.
It's like anything else. You look back at some of those shows and go, "Oh my God, that was awful."
Oh, absolutely.
There's some nuggets in there, but
exactly. I
yeah.
always say that to people. It was sometimes good and sometimes horrible, but it served a purpose, and we hit it enough times where it stayed on for 15
Well,
years.
and I will say that my dream was always because my memories of Almost Live was getting to go every now and again to the show, and honestly, and this isn't just
Live in
buttering
the
up to you,
studio.
but I remember going. I always get there early, and Steve Wilson, the director, and also on the cast, family friend as well. So my memories were always going. Dad would disappear to go do his thing, and I'd kind of sit in the stands. And I remember my memory of you was that you were always during rehearsals, sitting there and laughing. And I remember just going, man, this is like the funnest. The show hasn't even started, but you were always laughing. I mean, you were like the perfect cheerleader. Everybody was happy.
Oh, that's
and
great.
then they would fire up that music and the audience, and it was just this unbelievable energy.
An energy to that.
And ever
There's
since
nothing
for,
like it.
years and years and years, when I was at Wazoo working on the show, I dreamed of that moment behind the wall right before the show would start. I wanted that moment before. And when we did this live event at Triple Door, I sort of got to act as the MC and kind of hid behind the screen. And I really got this surge of lightning when we were playing this open and the crowd started cheering.
Yeah.
I kind of said, bottle this right here. This is as close as you're probably ever going to get to that moment. But this
That's
is what
it.
it would have been like.
That's it.
And it was really neat. And it just,
Well, it may end up being in a station again. Who
Well, I know
knows?
you trotted off. You and your husband trotted off to L.A. and I took a look at it, but I didn't want to do it. And the reason it was, besides wanting to raise my family in a less insane place, was that it wasn't even a real thing. It was a fantasy that you could, but we could just think of an idea You could produce it. It'd be on the air that
With
weekend.
Almost Live, no question
Fantastic.
about it.
What an opportunity.
There's nothing like that anywhere, and unless you're the only thing in LA is you make more money. Whoop-de-doo.
You do? Oh.
Yeah, you didn't think that one through.
No.
But you guys,
blew it, Dad.
lovely to chat with you. Thanks very much for coming in,
Yeah.
and we'll be looking for the 216.
Can we plug one more thing?
You can plug one more thing.
We are doing charity auctions now, Chris and I.
The two of you together?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
cool.
Cashman auction team, we have sort of unofficially done it for a year or so, but now we finally said, nope, this is it. We're official. We're going to do it together. And we
Good.
just
So
started
like
doing it.
you both are auctioning, or one's calling, one's
Yeah,
auctioning?
we switch
Little
off.
both.
We try to make it just fun and funny, and if people, we hope, will leave saying, dang, that was fun. We're
Yeah.
coming again next year.
And so far, that has been
been
the
the
reaction.
response.
It's been
Right,
really
right.
fun for us and fun for
John
clients.
Curley is shaking in his boots.
He better be.
He better be.
He's not wearing boots, by the way. He's wearing loafers these
Yeah.
days.
Because he's on these. Well,
The
he's on these
braided
side, too.
leather,
Oh,
yeah.
braided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matches
Well, you
his
guys,
belt.
great. Thank
Thanks,
you so
Nancy.
much. I
Thanks
love
for having
everything
us.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Coming up next is the one and only Pat Graney. Okay, a duck walks into a bar.
And Pat Graney says to the duck,
Dance.
That's the clean version. I heard a different one. The one he tells it at Christmas is filthy.
oh, I don't tell it that way.
Made Grandma cry.